So this presentation today is about what funding is available to improve your home. I'm just going to get rid of that there. I've got some faces on my screens. There we go. What funding is available to improve your home, grants to increase the comfort of your home and reduce your bills. This project is Keep Herefordshire Warm. We cover the whole of Herefordshire, and we're funded by the local authority to provide energy efficiency advice to vulnerable residents and all residents throughout the county. Keep Herefordshire Warm is run by 7Y Energy Agency, which are a charity working for a sustainable future free from fuel poverty. So just a brief overview of what this session covers. So it will cover the Keep Herefordshire Warm administered grants. So not necessarily that we hold the money, it's just grants that we administer, the measures that you can get through this. So that's like the works, insulation, boilers, and the eligibility to get these. Green Homes grants, as you probably have heard from the government, have been released, and I'll go through the measures you can get through those and the eligibility, as they are separate from Keep Herefordshire Warm administered grants, and just any little bits you can get from your energy supplier at the end there. So Keep Herefordshire Warm grants, why are they all about heating and insulation, I think is the main point of this slide. And it's because 70% of your energy costs for the home do go on heating. And then if you combine that with your hot water, which is often, you know, coming from the same place, depending on your system, that would be over 80%. So it's really important that you're using energy efficiently, and that your heating system is really good. So that's kind of why our grants focus on reducing heat loss to reduce energy costs and make the home more comfortable. If you've attended any of our other presentations, you'll know that it's the whole energy welfare of the home is dependent on what you can afford, and how costly the home or the system are. So it's just that balancing act. So what can we do to help people with that balancing act? What measures do we cover? So we have cavity wall and loft insulation. This can often be 100% funded. First time central heating systems. This can often be 100% funded, but landlords may need to make a contribution, and I can go into why this is a bit further on. Replacement of old inefficient boilers may need some client contribution, unless the boiler is completely broken down and in winter, in which case there is an emergency scheme. There would need to be a contribution towards the replacement of an old inefficient boiler. Heating controls. So we can provide support for heating controls, but we don't have the funding for those at the moment. External wall insulation on park homes, so on selected sites, and external and internal wall insulation via the eco criteria, which I'll go on to next. So who's eligible for the Keep Herefordshire Warm grants? These are income-based. So if you've got income-based benefits, you'd be eligible. So this would be job seekers allowance, universal credit, child tax credit, and pension credit. Low income or high costs. Basically, what that means is you've got a home that's hard to heat, so that leads on to the next one, poor energy efficiency of the property. So if the EPC is below a D and the person living in the home has a low income, they're not going to then be able to afford to heat that home. But we do kind of raise that income threshold on the eligibility criteria for those with health issues at the household. Because if you have health issues that mean you're home a lot, or you've got extra energy needs, your bills are going to be higher. So we do take that into account, and that's called low income and a vulnerability. I can send around our document on this, and it's a sliding scale depending on the number of people in the property, but it can be easier just to get people to call into our advice line to get this advice, and we can assess them, and obviously it's all free of charge. The number's free and just the assessment will be free, so it can be easier sometimes to go that way if you're making a signpost or a referral. So just to go through a bit, where does the money come from? So we administrate these funds. So we have the energy company obligation. This is, as it sounds, comes from the energy companies, but is governed by Ofgem, so they've kind of made the decisions on it. But the money does come from the energy companies, and we allow them to access it by giving council approval. Warm Homes Fund, again, it's a government or Ofgem initiative administered through us, so we've applied for some money. What this allows us to do is do central heating installs, essentially, for people who don't have any heating, or they have electric heating, because electric heating, as we've discussed can in previous ones, can be so much more expensive. It's this local authority obligation there, but that I think that should be local authority decision. So they've kind of got, with the Green Homes grants, we've got some more funding to do more in terms of air source heat pumps. That again is a central heating system that we could put through Warm Homes Fund, but it's to do with costing, so we could do some air source heat pumps through that. And Agility Echo, I've just put that on the end there, that's the emergency boiler scheme for broken down boilers over the winter period. It's not always open, so I've just popped that on the end. So that's kind of what we look after, but you don't need to know all of those, it's just good kind of to have an idea of where we're accessing that funding from. So how to apply? So I mentioned already, that's a free phone number there. All the details we'll send around the presentation afterwards, so you don't need to note it down, but that's the number. Our team of trained energy advisors are available 9 till 5 p.m. We are experiencing a really high volume of calls at the moment, and at the end of the presentation I'll put the email on as well. Also on our website we have a submission form where someone can submit their details and their issue, and we can get somebody to call them back. They also can provide expert energy advice on home energy efficiency, low carbon tech and tariff switching. So it's just good to be aware that, as well as checking whether you'd be eligible for funding and getting that ball rolling by making the referral to installers to do that work, we can provide more service than that, so the energy advice. So Green Homes grants, I think everybody's probably heard about this on Money Saving Expert or the news. So part of BEIS, the government's commitment to reduce climate emissions, improve housing stock, help reduce energy bills and provide green jobs. So they've launched this large scheme, and it covers insulation measures and a range of measures which I'm going to go through now, and it's targeted at hard to treat homes because the housing stock in the UK is quite bad. We have a lot of variety and a lot that's hard to treat, so not really a conventional one that's easy to go in and just retrofit, which is what we call putting all measures in retrospectively, and bring them up to, you know, a really, really good modern standard. It's really difficult to do that in our housing stock. So what the Green Homes grants sets out to do is provide funding for measures, and they've split it between two sections. So we have tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 would be the primary measure, which you have to get a tier 1 measure to be able then to get a tier 2 measure. So this is going to look pretty similar to maybe some of the stuff I've spoken about before. So external and internal wall insulation, so dry lining rooms, room in roof ceiling insulation. So not everybody has a loft. If you can't stand up in your loft space, or you've got like a room someone's living in there, obviously you can't insulate the floor because that person would be above the floor you've insulated. So room in roof is a bit trickier because it has to go along the top, obviously along the beams. Renewable heat technologies, wood pellet boilers, so biomass and heat pumps, so that's air source and ground source. And solar thermal for your hot water, but not the PV, which provides you with energy. So they're seeing these are tier 1 because they're green measures, so they reduce your bills with the insulation, and the renewable heat technologies are more efficient and more lower carbon Green Homes Grants secondary measures. So these are in the secondary category because they don't make quite the same level of efficiency savings. So upgrade of single glazed windows to double glazed, replacement of solid doors, draft proofing, heating controls, radiator TRVs, and room thermostats. So that's all pretty self-explanatory. The replacement of solid doors is external doors only, so can do those inside the house, and that's to do with, it's mainly around heat loss. So who is eligible? Everyone should be eligible if they're a homeowner, a rented property. They should be eligible. You can get up to 5,000 towards energy efficiency measures for this basic level. You can go onto the Simple Energy Advice website and you can just go through and check, but we haven't found anybody that's not eligible yet. So the maximum value of 2/3 the cost of the job. So if you were getting the full voucher, which would be £5,000, you'd have to pay 2,500 yourself towards the works. And that is spread across both those primary and secondary measures, which I just mentioned. So you can imagine if you were looking to do internal wall insulation and windows, that 5,000 is not going to cover you for that job. It's not going to cover 2/3 of that job, most likely. So it's good to be aware of that. Up to 10,000 can be for those receiving eligible income-based benefits. So you'll notice this is quite similar to Keep Herefordshire Warm. And these are this 10,000 should cover 100% of the costs unless it's for landlords, in which case they can only receive the 5,000 voucher. So even if there's someone in the property with income-based benefits, they'd still only be able to receive the 5,000. Just to add that in there, that would be for owner occupiers, that 10,000. So how to apply? I've already mentioned the Simple Energy Advice website. They have an eligibility assessment and a personalised plan. So you basically just go through and answer these questions, and it comes out with installers relatively near you. There's some question of the distance and what measures you could do in your property. It's always good to consult your EPC because that will have recommendations as well. You can choose the appropriate qualifying measures using both the EPC and what the Simple Energy Advice website says. You can then find a trust mark or microgeneration recess scheme registered installer, so MCS, from the Green Homes Grants list, and surveying quotes ready for submission. So you can submit those quotes already, so that you go through the website and you have to submit through the website. They do have a phone line, which can take a while to get through, but I believe that is up and running now. Just to mention on Trustmark or MCS registered installers, if you're going, they've got to be on the Simple Energy Advice website, so you'll find those guys that are registered with those organisations on there. There are Trustmark registered installers who wouldn't be registered on the Simple Energy Advice website, and they'd need to be to access the vouchers just mentioned. So as you might gather from how kind of a little bit complicated this has just been, it's a great idea, but there are some issues. So as I mentioned, lack of contractors. So you apply for a voucher and someone very far away is suggested as the person to do the works because they're the organisation that has signed up to the Simple Energy Advice website. There could be a local Trustmark accredited installer or even a local installer doing the works who's not Trustmark accredited, but still does the work that you wouldn't be able to use. So not as many people have signed up as they expected, and it's mainly because it's a short-term scheme and it's an uncertain time. The portal has been unreliable, but I think the portal itself is not a major issue. The process of primary and secondary measures can be too complicated and for some people and not provide enough. If you just wanted to do, say, your insulation, it would be fine, you just be going straight through primary. But if you were, say, a person who wanted to do your windows and you had to kind of think about what measure to get first to then go on to the windows, it can feel a bit complicated. We are hoping the government improves the process and guidelines for contractors and simplifies the scheme so more people can get on it. So both more contractors can be working on it and we can use more local people. And it's simpler for people to use. As you've noticed, it might be an issue for those who are trying to use the phone line. They'll then receive a paper form, and this might not be the best process for them to go about getting it. It might not be the easiest process for them. The scheme has been extended to March 2021 because of these issues. So what should you bear in mind with Green Homes grants? So you may be eligible for other funding that could get you a better deal. Check the Keep Herefordshire grants page, because ECO could provide a better deal. Such announcements tend to attract cowboys. What I mean by that is if someone's calling people to offer them their work, they might have heard about it, but they should be applying for it themselves. So it's just some people can take advantage of funding situations, and nobody should be asked for money up front. Installers must be Trustmark registered, ideally 2019, but accepting 2017 at present. So 2017 is fine. Keep your quotes and submit. You can submit a few and they will kind of choose which one, or they'll allow you to choose, but it kind of shows that you've gone out to multiple installers. Quite difficult when there's not multiple installers, too many installers working on the scheme. Green Home grants amounts will be removed from a renewable heat incentive total. I'm just going to try speed through this because it's quite a lot on this scheme. We do not govern this fund, but we can provide you with more information on this. And don't agree to a measure before you have the voucher. So don't sign up to the install date before you know you've got a voucher to be paid by the government. So just to cover, what can your energy supplier offer? Warm Homes discount, and I'm sure everybody here knows about that, but that's £140 through the energy supplier off your winter fuel bill. It's not the winter fuel payment that comes from the government, it's something else. Those on pension credit should be receiving it automatically, but there are other ways of accessing it, so you just need to kind of go to the energy supplier's website and go through. But you know, a child under 5 of the property, an illness will often be considered for Warm Homes discount, and that person can apply. So don't assume they'd automatically be getting it. Emergency and friendly credit. So emergency credit, hopefully the person wouldn't need to pay back, but then there's some credit that they would need to pay back. Ofgem have provided new guidelines for suppliers, and they will be more supportive of those struggling with bills. Some suppliers also have trust funds for those with debt that you can apply for that to be written off. And our energy advocate, Amy, does a lot of that work with her clients, and some have funds for white goods. So basically some, like British Gas, can get like a freezer, a more efficient version of the white goods that they've already got. So a washing machine, a fridge, that sort of thing. So again, we've got our over the phone advice. We've got a dedicated Green Homes grants advice line. As you've probably noticed, it's a complicated programme, so it might be handy to give a ring if someone's considering it. Provide more information and access to grants for insulation replacement boilers and central heating. So that's the first part of what I went through. Availability of paid visits in the future for those not qualifying for the above, and MEES for landlords to help them reach the minimum energy standards required of the renting of the properties. So that would be a paid service for landlords. Link to energy website for local installers, and information page on our Green Homes grants. For local installers, I'd go through the Simple Energy Advice website. Our free energy advice line is still running throughout COVID, and this is the number. Again, we'll send this around, so you don't need to write it down. Just kind of rushed through the end there just so we'd get a few minutes for any questions. So I understand that it's quite a lot on funding, especially with the new schemes available.